Welcome guys and welcome back to the Mbati Show, Field Training Officer position that you implemented inside the US Embassy,
Right.
local security unit.
That idea, like I said before, came from law enforcement.
Law enforcement.
In law enforcement, that once a police recruit goes through his 26 weeks of training at a police academy, then they have to train in the field with another police officer for another 14 weeks. And that's the field training officer. So that took that implementation, and I looked for a security guard who could handle that type of situation, who was eager to learn, who was willing or wanting to improve themselves, and I found that in you. And that's why I made you my field training officer. We talked about complacency. I noticed there was a lot of security officers at the embassy at the time that were complacent. They were happy to be where they were. They knew their job and they didn't want to learn anything else. They were just happy to stay right where they are and not have anything to do, because they were fearful that they were going to make a mistake, and probably fearful that because of that mistake they were going to get fired, which that should not happen. A security officer should be willing to learn more information, take in more information to improve himself, to improve his job, so that person can move about and not be in fear of losing their job because they might have made a mistake. So because of that, I created the field training officer, and I had you go around the U.S. Embassy training the guards and keeping their level of training as high as possible, from PR 24 to regulations to security problems. I even had you test them on scenario situations, and we created different scenarios. What would you do in this scenario? What would you do in that scenario? Which I had you do, and it worked out great. And I really appreciate that hard work you did for us.
Thank you, sir. Just earlier, sir, you stated the importance of training security officers, since they were the ones that were more exposed.
Yes.
Yes.
So yeah, a security officer needs to be highly trained, because once an issue happens or an incident happens, it's that security officer that's on scene. His manager, his supervisor is home comfortably in bed. He's worthless. That security manager is worthless. That security guard or security officer on scene needs to know what to do. He or she needs to know what decisions to make. And that's why training for those guards is the utmost of them, so they can do it comfortably, they can do it with confidence, and not have the fear of making a mistake. Sure, they may make a bad mistake, they may make a bad call, but that's life. We learn from that, and they move on. And they shouldn't be afraid of losing their job because they made a bad call, because that supervisor who's home in bed 10 miles away thinks they did the wrong thing. Well, I'm sorry. You get your butt out of bed and you get down there at 3 o'clock in the morning and you deal with it. Training for a security officer is the utmost value for that officer. That officer needs to know the laws. That officer needs to know his tactics. That officer needs to know the policies of the company. That officer needs to know the policies of the agency he's guarding. All that needs to come together to make that officer a competent, well-rounded security officer that can be trusted and stand duty in the middle of the night on his or her own and make the proper decisions.
Without being worried.
That's right, absolutely.
Yes. From Diplomatic Security Services, thank you for joining us on the Mbati Show.